Welcome to the Real Power Family Radio Show. I'm your host, Eric Woolwind. Today, Ethan decided to grace us with his 14-year-old presence, and we have his old brother who's pushing 18 in
No,
just under a
he's
year, and my very young-looking wife, Lila. Today, wow, I'm just in a weird mood. We just came back from my uncle's funeral, and I was sitting there talking to all. We have an incredibly large family. I have like 35 cousins. There were 10 aunts and uncles, and seeing all these people, I'm looking at these younger people. I'd like to call them the 20-year-olds, but they're probably 30, and they have a couple of children of their own, and I still see myself as that even though I'm pushing 50. And then I look at all the cousins that are my age, and they look like my aunts and uncles the way I remember them. So I decided we aren't getting any younger. No one is. And Ethan, Devin, you guys might not realize that. This is the natural cycle of life. So I thought we'd have a show today on cycles. Everything is always changing. There is always spring, summer, winter, and fall. And I don't know where this will go, probably to a dozen different directions like normal. But maybe we'll talk about the Kondratiev wave or effect. We'll talk about the business cycle, and definitely should throw in some of the stuff that we've had on about different people investing at different stages of their life and how you really need to plan differently when you're 20 than you do when you're 50 or 60. So, what did you want to talk about, Devin? I think you were the only one that had more than 5 minutes to look something up.
Well, you just kind of told me, hey, we're going to talk about cycles today. And I just started jotting down a couple of notes. I didn't make it super far about, I was thinking market cycles when you told that to me. And so I was looking at a couple of things for the 2000.com recession and the 2007 great financial crisis, because these are the first things that came to my mind. And
I have a couple ideas if we need, Devin, because I know something that our dad has taught us, and I think we've talked about it on some previous radio shows, is the cycle of how uh good men create good time, or strong men create good times create weak men create bad times create strong men, and that goes around in a circle, and how we can talk about how that's affecting us in today's world.
And there's a great book that's about that, Ethan, called The Fourth Turning. I really enjoyed that book, but it talks a little bit about the different generations and how they go in a cycle. And I think if you look back at history, you can see how these generations and what all these generations do affects what happens next. And I think we're seeing that in today's world as well.
I
Yeah, and that
absolutely agree. And to Ethan's, the cycle he was just talking about, I don't remember what that's called, and that is certainly something that we are seeing more and more in today's world. Just we have had a lot of really good times. I mean, people can say that it was good or bad all they want, but we are living in some of the best times ever. I mean, can you imagine? Like, we have the internet, we have phones, we have technology. We
we're
don't have to
getting
worry about food.
we're
I
starting to
mean,
get AI and stuff that's helping our lives be a lot easier, like we've talked about in multiple of our teenager takeovers.
yeah, and we'll see where that one goes. And our lives are incredibly easy. We have incredibly good times. And that has led to a lot more weak men. And I say weak men, it's just weak people. And that is leading us into bad times where we have a government that's $34.7 trillion in debt. We have just out of
Other
control.
governments, yeah, out of control, other governments, whether it's the federal or even local governments, like we talk about Alliance, trying to overreach and overstep their bounds to, do a lot of different stuff that isn't going to benefit us.
Yeah.
Do you have
And
anything else to add on to that, or Dad,
yeah.
Devin?
So then excuse me.
I think right now you hear a lot of people talking about all of the bad that they see. What they're not looking at necessarily is what brought us to this particular point of the cycles that we're in. And I think that if we look back, we'll see that exactly what you're saying, Devin, about, things got too easy, we got too complacent, and now we're getting into the point where, those that want the more power and things are starting to try to take over, and they're overstepping their bounds. And
And
so
if
now we
if
need now we need these bad times to make good men that can stand up and get back to freedom.